TV?
No, I think it's through LATV or the city website.
So if we wanted to watch this, you'd have to go to the city website.
Yeah, it'll be it's my understanding that it'll get logged onto it, but then it's archived at LATV. It's 7 o'clock now.
It is 7 o'clock. We are live on YouTube as well. I can see that up there. So we'll call the meeting to order. Planning Commission meeting April 8th, 2020 at 7 p.m. We're all doing this from our homes tonight instead of City Hall due to the coronavirus emergency declaration. Karen, can you take a roll call for us, please?
Commissioner Young?
Here.
Commissioner Keen?
Here.
Commissioner Brink?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Batty?
Here.
And Chair Langness.
Present. Next on the list is to go over the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll ask those that are able to stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
to the flag of the United States of America,
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then so for the members that weren't on the practice meeting the other day, just to go over a couple of things so that we can have an orderly meeting and hopefully not talk over everyone. If you wish for me to recognize you, I'm going to ask that you raise your hand visibly to the camera so that I can see it. And then I'll try to call those out. I think it'll actually be easier than when I have to look left and right and probably catch those that might have otherwise waited. For Susan that's on the phone, if you could just announce yourself, Commissioner Young, and then I'll catch you in line with whichever hand is up before you. In addition, I'm going to call a roll call on all votes tonight for the agenda so that we can make it as easy for staff as possible for the records. Any questions on the meeting protocol? Perfect. The next on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve items numbers 1 through 11 on the amended agenda?
I make a motion. Evan Miller.
I'll second that. Michael Keen.
There's a motion by Kevin and a second by Mike to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Karen, can you do a roll call for us, please? Karen, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Commissioner Young?
Aye.
Commissioner Keen?
Here.
Commissioner Brink?
We're doing yay or nay, right, on this, or?
Yes.
Yes, yay. Or aye, I'm sorry.
Miller?
Aye.
Commissioner Batty?
Aye.
Chair Langness.
Aye. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is approving the Planning Commission meeting minutes from February 26, 2020. I'll entertain a motion, or unless there's any concerns or updates or questions about it.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from February 26th. This is Commissioner Miller.
Commissioner Miller moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Michael Keen.
Commissioner Keen seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Karen, can you do a roll call vote for us, please?
Commissioner Young?
Aye.
Commissioner Keen?
Aye.
Commissioner Brink?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Commissioner Batty?
Abstain.
And Chair Langness.
Aye. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is to approve the Planning Commission special meeting minutes from April 7th, 2020. That was yesterday afternoon's meeting. Is there a motion or any discussion on?
I'll make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes from April 7th. This is Commissioner Miller.
Commissioner Miller moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Michael
Commission-
Keane.
Commissioner Keen seconds. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none. The only comment that I have that I just want to make on the public record, because I know the video is not up online yet, is that the meeting had no discussion outside of the technical aspects. So there was no formal plans or anything discussed during that meeting for the public that may be viewing it that couldn't yesterday afternoon. Karen, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Young,
Abstain.
Commissioner Keen,
Aye.
Commissioner Brink,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Batty,
Aye.
Chair Langness.
Aye. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the Common Bond Communities Apartment Building Concept Plan Review for discussion. So staff will present this. I believe that will be Donovan. And then we can certainly ask questions to staff, and then we can take any additional feedback from the applicant. And commissioners can then weigh in on questions. Donovan, do you want to kick it off?
Certainly. I'd like to first orient commissioners to where the site is within the Headwaters PUD. This site is immediately kind of south and west of the Forest Lake Transit Center, and also a little bit southeast of the Hardwood Creek Service Center. This is a different site than was proposed and reviewed as another concept plan meeting in January. The concept, the total site is shown here. Do you, okay, hold on. I lost my meeting controls. Oh. I apologize. Oh. And so
There you go.
here you go. Sorry about that. The total parcel area is here, also owned by Mr. Pratt, and the actual location, which is outside the 2007 Headwaters Village PUD, is on more the northerly and westerly section of that parcel. It is currently 2.3 acres, a total of 53 units proposed. As you can see, the orientation is more on the Fitzgerald Trail side with access on the future Headwaters Boulevard. There are 96 parking spaces that are proposed with stormwater facility on this kind of the eastern southern side, and the tot lot over here, adjacent to the building. There's just some basic landscaping around. Again, it's a 4-story building. The city engineer's comments relate to installing a sidewalk along the public roads there. with also some notes on removing curb lines and working with utilities, and also, what would be the future utility connections to Lot B here, which would be a, subject of another application for a minor subdivision if that was, created as a different lot, a separate lot. The fire chief did review this concept plan and had no immediate concerns with emergency access. And I specifically asked him if the tot lot location impacted, aerial truck access, and he said no. And this again is just a concept plan review. It's non-binding. No formal decision is made. And it is also would be subject to a zoning map change in the future to accommodate this, high density residential land use, since it's not currently allowed within the property zone neighborhood commercial, but would be a different, brought in a different zoning district. But, as of this coming Monday, assuming that the city council formally adopts the comp plan, that this mixed use future land use plan does allow the high density residential. So there's a few more of the zoning pieces to go, but this is the first step. And I'd be happy to take any questions from the planning commission.
Donovan, can you pull up the cameras?
Oh, sure. See, I lose my. Sorry about that.
Did anyone have questions of staff?
Oops. Okay.
Commissioner Batty?
So I didn't go back and look at the other meeting minutes and drawings and things that were presented, but this is basically the same size unit, same amount of parking places, same,
No.
it's the same general project, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay. It's just it's on a different site,
It's done. Yeah,
different
it's
orientation. Yeah.
different site. No dog park. That was part of that other one. Tot lot is an acceptable location according to the fire chief. He had concerns before. There's no concerns with the access road being too close to Fitzgerald Trail. That was a concern, or else even, access to Fitzgerald Trail. So I believe that they did respond to many of the Planning Commission's concerns.
Commissioner Young?
Donovan, are these 1, 2, and 3 unit apartments? Are they one bedroom apartments? What is the plan for that?
I haven't seen a unit count. Perhaps, Andy, can you take that one?
Yeah, this is, can everybody hear me?
Just barely.
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 Okay. This is Andy Hughes from Common Bond. That's correct. So this will be a good mix of units, about 50% 2 bedrooms, 25% 1 bedrooms, and 25% 3 bedrooms. And just for a little bit of background, we're also developing Headwaters Landing, a similar multifamily project just to the north of this location that just opened up on the 1st of this month. And that's been really, really well received, that same unit mix. And so we're targeting something similar for this site. I think we're especially excited about it given how well that's gone. We expect it to lease up within about 30 to 45 days. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Keen?
Did
Oh,
he-
I'm sorry, Commissioner Young. Keep going.
Then I have some concerns about the parking, but we can talk about that later.
Commissioner Keen?
I didn't hear the very end of that, when the last 25%, was that entry level like studios?
Sorry, this is Andy. 25% one bedrooms, 50% two bedrooms, 25% three bedrooms.
Oh, 3 bedrooms, okay.
Andy, did you have anything additional you wanted to add about the concept plan review?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just add that, like Donovan noted, we pivoted to this site. We recognized the feedback we got from the Planning Commission at the January meeting that there was a desire to retain the other site as commercial zoning to allow our retail cluster to develop in the future. So, we deliberately pivoted to this site in order to allow that to take place. And so commissioners are correct that this is very similar to our last proposal. And again, that just speaks to how well Headwaters Landing, our first project in the vicinity, has done. So we'd be really excited to do a second phase. And what we'd be proposing is comparable in terms of design and quality and things like that. And they'd be happy to answer any of the questions and talk about parking and things as well. And I'm joined by Nick Conniff, who's the project architect from Cost Wilson as well. Thank you.
Nick, did you have other pieces to add too?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I think commissioners are correct that this is very similar, and yeah, we just kind of reacted to our feedback from the last meeting.
Questions of commissioners to the applicants? Commissioner Batty?
I'm curious from the owners and the development team here, what kind of it seems like the parking on the this, I can't remember the name of the project that just opened, but was that a similar parking ratio? I'm just curious what kind of if you had any reaction at all on the amount of parking and how that's played out in the real market.
Right, that's a great question. So I believe it's the exact same ratio. So that's a somewhat smaller building. It's just 45 units, but it's still parked at, I believe, 1.8 or 1.9 stalls per unit. And it's all surface parked, just like this project. And like I mentioned, we just opened up actually April 1st, and it's been really successful in terms of leasing. I'd say about double the pace of our typical family projects in the Twin Cities, and parking has not been an issue for occupancy. We will monitor it long term, and we can make adjustments to this site plan if, for example, we find out that there's more parking stalls desired. So we could look at a proof of parking concept or something like that as homework as well. We'd be glad to. But so far, the amount of parking has been well received by the market.
Commissioner Young?
To that, is the ratio of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms the same on the other side? I thought that those were mostly 1 and maybe a few 2 bedrooms.
No, this is Andy. It's actually the same mix. That project has the same proportion of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units as we're talking about here.
Thank you.
Other discussion? I'm not seeing any. Donovan, what are you looking for from us tonight? I see this as a discussion item. You're not seeking a motion at this point, correct?
That's correct. No, this is a non-binding feedback. This is really, really the dialogue between commissioners and the applicant.
I saw Commissioner Young's hand go up again.
And thank you for being observant on the chat side of the thing. I want to commend the applicant. I appreciate that you heard what we said last time. I think that this will be a better location for this property, for this building. Realizing that immediately to your east, that will be a full parking lot eventually. As that transit center gets more and more busy. So I think that is a much better location, and I appreciate your handling that. How are you going to handle the sewer on Outlot B? Realizing the comments from the city engineer.
This is Andy. Nick from Cost Wilson, I might defer to you on that if you if you have a chance to look at that in depth, and if not, we can certainly come back to that.
No, I'm sorry, I have not seen that report.
And so this
My
is
concern on that,
sorry, just going to say this is Andy. So I just add that it's obviously one seller, Land Pratt, who's on the line with us tonight. So, you know, in terms of the circulation of site, the access, and of course the utilities, we'll work with him collaboratively and with the city to ensure that utilities for that that remnant parcel are feasible for the future. We do hear that comment. We just aren't responding specifically at this point.
Mr. Pratt, do you still have control of that property to the south?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be a landlocked and have difficulty in getting sewer access.
We're going to work collaboratively with Common Bond to extend utilities into it.
Commissioner Batty?
So this Headwaters, the new street, can't remember the name of it, but is that, how is that going to come about? I don't know, Donovan, if that's a question for you, or has a decision been made? I mean, is this something the developers, is this part of the development package is putting that street in?
Yes, the developer is responsible for building Headwaters Boulevard. It's the name of it.
Okay.
There are already underground utilities along there. And some of those will have to be actually modified to, accommodate the new development along the street. The
So
above ground.
Commissioner Batty?
So what's the issue with the sewer and water? If there's already utilities there in the right of way, what's the issue?
Dennis,
Well-
Outlot B would not have access to sewer.
Yeah, but I thought that, okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding what Outlot B is then.
If you take a look at the city engineer's comments,
Yeah, I'm, but so is Outlot B the same as Lot B on the drawings, or is it something else?
it is Lot B, sir. I'm sorry.
So, and Headwaters Boulevard is going to run from the northwest to the southeast, essentially down the west side of both of these parcels of land. I'm missing something here on why the sewer and water would be an issue. It doesn't, it's not the end of the world. I was just curious.
I'll show you the existing water and sewer. Sewer is green, water is blue. And so right now there's a stub to this, what is our subject property. There's no stub to this lower area. What's described as is Lot B within the concept plan. And so what Ryan the city engineer is describing is that the city would have whoever, when this is developed, they'll have to cut into the pavement and create a new sewer stub. As well as, a water stub. There's no water stub for this Lot B. It's very detail oriented, but he wants to just, make that apparent.
And Mr. Batty, I'm sorry, I'm raising my hand sort of. Mr. Batty, I really hate cutting into streets when they're relatively new because they'll never be the same.
Well,
Donovan, can you pull up the cameras again so I can call people?
I'll try.
Thank you.
My controls disappear. Oh. Sorry.
Commissioner Batty?
Street's not there. The utilities are. Why can't they just do the cuts? Is the development then doing the cuts now when the street is put in? Is that what we're talking about? Or I don't want to make it, a tempest in a teapot here, but it just didn't make sense. The engineer's comments didn't make sense to me in light of the fact that the street's not there.
Leonard Pratt, did you have an answer to that?
Exactly. We'll, before we pave the street, we'll put a tap in.
Commissioner Young?
And that was my issue, is before you put the street in, put the water, when we're looking at this, before you put the street in, put the water and sewer taps in there, because if the street is built and then you cut the street for the taps, that street is never the same. And so the city will be maintaining this after it is built. And I really don't want the city to have to deal with an area that will fail sooner than the rest of the street because it's been cut into.
Understood.
Other questions, comments from commissioners? Commissioner Miller? Commissioner Miller, you're on silent. You're on mute.
I saw that before I started to speak, and then I had to quick find it. I just wanted to make a comment to Mr. Pratt and to Common Bond for bringing back another plan for us, the concept plan, and I really like it, and I think it'd be great for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Other comments? The comments I have would follow much like that of Commissioner Miller's. I like this plan a lot better than the last one we saw. And I think it's the concerns I have are extremely minimal. Staff noted them in their comments, and I'm confident you'll address each of those as we move forward. Are you looking for any other feedback from us, or is this sufficient?
This is Andy. I'm not sure if that question's for me or Donovan, but this is the outcome we were hoping for from this meeting. So I really appreciate it. And I want to thank the commission and Donovan for providing the process to provide this feedback so we can end up with a project that we're really excited about as well. So we really appreciate the collaboration from you all.
And Donovan?
Yes.
Did you have anything else for this item? Otherwise, I'm not seeing the hands going up anymore.
Nope, that's it for me.
All right, we'll move on to item number 8. Oh, thank you to the applicants.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Susan just raised her hand. Commissioner Young?
Yeah, on the parking, I'm okay with the parking that you have proposed today. And I'm also okay with the lack of covered parking. But when this comes back for its next approval, please don't decrease the parking from where it is now. I did some rough calcs on your 1, 2, and 3 units, and where you have it now, I'm very comfortable with, but I'm hoping it does not decrease. But this is a much, much better proposal, and I do appreciate it.
Okay, understood. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Were there any other comments? Commissioner Batty?
After having said everything we said about the utilities there, I just wanted the developers and the landowners to know that I'm definitely in favor of this project. Want to look forward to seeing it move forward and the next applications come in here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Was there any other comments? All right, I'm not seeing any. We'll move on to item number 8. Oh, and thank you to the applicants. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. I'd ask that you put yourself on mute, or we look forward to you bringing the next piece of paper to us in a few months.
Thanks. I'll sign off. Thanks all.
Thank you.
The
Thank
next
you very much.
item on the agenda is Headwaters 123 Comprehensive Plan Amendment, and this is a recommendation to City Council. Donovan, do you want to kick us off?
Certainly. and like to also locate us, you know, within the you know, on the map to show this. The subject parcel here, known as Headwaters 123, is city-owned, 123 acres here, rather close to the Common Bond concept plan area. And this area was initially part of the Headwaters development, you know, designated for residential. However, it did revert back to city ownership, and it's been in city ownership then. It's currently, as you can see, it's vacant property now, used as a hayfield. And as the city was doing the comp plan preparation in 2018, we looked at what could this be, and it came with a future land use category of mixed use, same as that Headwaters subject property there, and the also with a section of it, a southern section, low to medium density residential, which is a designation we gave for many areas there adjacent to the Tannersbrook Golf Course on that north, east, and also southern borders. However, and that was basically, that decision was made in April of 2018. Since then, the city has reevaluated that and looked at economic development goals and seen that a big piece of what was going to be the 2040 job center, which would have been, you know, in that southwest corner of the city, at a future 35E interchange, that goal for interchange seems pretty elusive at the moment. And so the city is pivoting to what could be, you know, another job center that, you know, has a higher likelihood of occurring, as well as what can the city do with this Headwaters 123? And I think it's been kind of a long unstated goal that the city doesn't want to be in competition with home builders for this. And, you know, as the Washington County began developing its plans for the tech corridor, the city looked at this as a potential site for business technology, like a data center, something that involves, you know, access to public water and sewer, as well as the, you know, proximity to like a state highway here with Highway 61, Collector Road to the north with Headwaters Parkway, and realize that this, which actually had been once the site of, you know, part of a site selection for another data center that decided to go, I believe it was to Becker. It was Google actually looked at this. I think it was in 2016, 2017, in process that was somewhat secretive, meeting black Escalades on the prairie, and, you know, seriously, that happened. And also, you know, an interview down at Deed headquarters in St. Paul. Ultimately, of course, that did not happen. But that did spark within the city an interest in, well, what could happen here? Also, if there was business technology development, it would diversify the local job base as well as provide high-paying jobs, which again is a comp plan goal, as well as if you looked at the city survey that was taken during the comp plan preparation, you know, high-paying jobs was one of the clear goals identified by residents as a need, as something they'd like to see in 2040. So given all that, the current land use as, you know, as in zoning, it's MXR1, and the future land use coming this Monday as mixed use, that doesn't fit. And so this comp plan amendment is to designate this Headwaters 123 as business park, where business park is is a permitted use. I mean, data centers are a permitted use. And because it just, things can't be just easy. It's, and a big portion of this involves, there was this high density residential component in mixed use, the mixed use future land use category that has to be redesignated. That means, putting that density on other properties. And also there was another aim I had with this, which was to really reevaluate that 50% residential high density requirement within the mixed use future land use category, and looking at perhaps there's those areas on Highway 61 that were set aside as that mixed use as a future land use perhaps weren't so appropriate. And so that's why we get this patchwork here of, achieving twin goals of putting number 4, the city-owned Headwaters 23, as a business park, future land use. And then also taking this 6 and 8 and redesignating those and removing that residential component to make them more suitable for commercial development. They would take advantage of the highway access, but not a 50% requirement for residential. And of course, that, to be clear, that requirement is within the whole mixed use area, not on every single parcel. But just looking at Highway 61 and, as it doesn't seem that compatible with the residential. And so I'll go through these. Well, maybe I should stop for a second if anyone has any questions at this point as far as what okay. If anyone has any questions on this first part, as far as the city's goals here and just that, the overall concept.
Commissioner Miller?
Donovan, my only question is for the business park, if we did agree to maybe look at changing that, that's all that can go in there then, is just business, warehouses, offices? What are we looking at?
Yeah, the business park, provides for offices, wholesale showrooms, light manufacturing, research and development, and training. And so it's a mix. It's not simply data centers. And actually, there is some section of business park on the east side of Highway 61, somewhat near on the northern edge of it is by the Headwaters Parkway on the east side of 61. And the zoning district specifically does permit data centers. So of course, this is just the future land use category business park, and the zoning district, will have, but will be fleshed out more, and that'll be subject of, future planning commission conversations. Any questions at this point?
Commissioner Batty?
So what kind of a timeline, or is there any timeline at all associated with this? Is this just something that's going to move through the approval process here? Or?
There is, we're looking at, the reason this is coming forward is that it's a multi-month process. And right now, if you go on, the Tech Corridor website, it's set up that, we are, the city is actively marketing this as a, tech center property. However, any sort of site selector will come and they will ask, well, as part of their request for information, is the zoning compatible? We would have to say no. And that really just bumps it out of contention for any of those, that type of development. So we'd like to get it right. And we always knew the zoning would have to be complete, but also, the mixed use would have to be accommodated in some way, but then we decided that really it would have to be the business park as a future land use and file with business park as a zoning district. And part of this whole process, it's really a Met Council driven process, is to have it, and because of the size of the parcel, there has to be an interjurisdictional review. So we have Chisago County, Anoka, Washington County, City of Lino Lakes, Hugo, Columbus. Everyone gets to weigh in if they have some comment. That's mandatory. They can, and that's a 60-day review period. If everyone, I think there's 16, the same people who review the comp plan, if there's these jurisdictions, waive that time and say we have no comment, then it can be shorter. But given that, as well as 160-day Met Council review, there's easily a 4-month process there. So that's why it's we're starting it now at this point, and it also involves the zoning map change. And there's a few different pieces, and we'll actually have a planning commission, open public hearing on this after we've gotten the reviews, and it goes to council, and council will also take a look at it and actually then makes a decision to authorize its submittal to the Met Council.
Commissioner Young, you had your hand raised.
Yes, I do. Donovan, my understanding is that this evening you're just asking us to make a recommendation on section 4. However, these are significant in 1 through 8, significant changes. And I need to know if the property owners have been contacted about these changes. And I also need to know if you're going to be asking us to also comment or weigh in officially on 1, 2, 2A, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8 this evening.
No, I've not contacted any of the property owners. And yes, I'm asking for the Planning Commission recommendation to council to initiate the interjurisdictional review process.
Okay. These are really significant changes to their opportunities to sell their property. And I am very reluctant to move forward with this without them having been contacted.
Okay. Do you want to go step by step and we can look at each one of those? I see many of them as not that significant. I mean, the biggest shift is that they were shifted to commercial, where many of them now are agriculture, or some of those are business park.
Well, number 2 has changed from mixed use to commercial mixed use. We've got the change from a mixed use to a general business, change from mixed use to a general business. Those are fairly significant changes. And then change from a mixed use to a downtown mixed use. Especially since our zoning code itself has not been finalized. These could be very significant changes for those property owners.
If you want, we can let's go down the list. And I can show you, which, within the text, which of these, what the changes are.
Well, for me, I'm not the one who owns those properties and who will be directly affected by the changes. For instance, over at Shadow Creek, I know that they were really not interested at one point in time at having a commercial mixed use there. They had hoped to be able to sell that for a combination of continued ag or stable or some form of real low density operation. A mixed use to commercial mixed use is significantly different. That's a shopping center.
Which is, this is, you know, previous to that, it was the mixed use. And that has, you know, that's basically the shopping center, you know, that is the shopping center, future land use of the, you know, the Headwaters area, the Headwaters Village PUD area.
When you were speaking to us at a previous session, and we were talking about mixed use, you said that did not include any commercial and that it was a high density apartment area because that was one of our discussions on the previous Common Bond project.
No, I mean, high density residential is allowed in mixed use, but also it includes retail, office, service, and multiple family. So it's a mixture.
Commercial mixed use in the new zoning code, you anticipate will have a significant residential component and allow low density.
The you mean low density residential?
Yes, a commercial mixed use, when you finalize the zoning code, you will anticipate then that it will allow significant residential properties within that commercial mixed use and some low density components.
I don't expect that to be a low density component. But yes, I could anticipate that could have some residential.
What is the difference between neighborhood business and commercial mixed use specifically?
Oh, okay. Neighborhood commercial does not have a residential component, and it's meant to be just that, you know, the daily needs kind of commercial. Gas stations are conditional use, for instance.
And commercial mixed use?
And commercial mixed use is that it doesn't, I don't believe it also has that. It does not have that residential. I was confusing mixed use and commercial mixed use. So no, I would not expect that commercial mixed use in number 2 or 2A to have a residential component.
It's been my understanding that in our previous discussions that we needed a significant push on residential, reasonably high density, moderate to high density, to comply with some of our future housing projections. And here I'm looking at it at dropping housing from number 2, dropping housing from 2A, dropping housing from 4, dropping housing from 6, and dropping housing from 8. How does that affect our housing counts that I know we put a tremendous amount of time, thought, and agony into when we developed the 2040 comp plan?
It does not change the overall numbers or actually even the overall minimum density requirement. And these are two things that we really had to hold certain with this comp plan change, or the Met Council would never accept it. The but it's, I mean, I understand your concern. And I don't see that it would really undermine things if we did, keep that commercial mixed use, I mean, high density residential in the commercial mixed use future land use category. Does that address your
But you
concern?
you just told me that you don't think that there is any residential in commercial mixed use.
Right. I'm saying that could be introduced. We can modify the amendment.
Commissioner Keen?
So Donovan, what are you asking us tonight? What do you want from us tonight?
A recommendation to initiate this comp plan amendment so that we can have this interjurisdictional review. And then I'll bring it back to Plan Commission. We'll hold a public hearing regarding it. And then, when we can actually work out those logistics. This would be, I assume, in June. And then we would and then have it go to council for a formal action to actually submit it to Met Council.
Commissioner Miller?
Donovan, I guess I'm a little concerned only because we're looking, so parcel 123, how many acres is that approximately? Is that 123 acres?
123 acres.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned only because we're asking to take something that right now, based on our comp plan that we submitted, is going to give us a lot of options, to making it basically a business park that gives us no options. And so, I mean, I don't know if you can say if you've got anything that is in the works, if people are interested or people you're talking to. I don't know where we're at with that as a city, but it seems to me that it's like trying to win the lottery, that we're going to take something that gives us a lot of options and limit it to something that's going to give us very few. That's my only concern.
Commissioner Young?
Donovan, isn't
Yes.
it a bit disingenuous to say that we're sending this out for review of our peer governments, and then we're going to bring it back for a public hearing and get public comment? And if there is, I guess the assumption would be then that the public comment would be relatively futile if the public wish to make any changes to this, because you've already sent it out for review by others. Been there, done that. This has happened before. Wouldn't it make more sense for this to be looked at and have public hearings by the community, so that if there were concerns from property owners or from the community, or if there were things that we really wanted to think about carefully with this, we could make those changes and then send it out for review by our public peers?
That's certainly possible. And I also, it's not like, I mean, I don't think I think mostly we're not gonna have much in the way of public comments. I believe the watershed district might have some comments. But I don't believe that there is a lot of concern about this property, which is pretty interior to the city, by these other, like the neighboring jurisdictions, for instance. mean, I would like to address your concerns. I mean, I think you have a valid concern that, we didn't contact property owners, but, we also didn't reach out to them during the initial, comp plan update as well. In many cases, these are upzoning the parcels, and potentially reward, making the properties more attractive, and gain a higher price within the market and offer more opportunities. I think that I can modify, we can do more to, put residential in those other areas. I mean, I think in some ways, just trying to get the overall numbers to work. Probably didn't look at the details enough.
it. Commissioner Keen,
Donovan,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Susan. I didn't know you're coming back.
Donovan, I was at the majority of the meetings on the comp plan and at those public hearings. And I saw several of those property owners at those meetings, and they were highly interested in what the plans were for their specific pieces of property.
Okay.
I do think Susan is correct on that, Donovan. We did a lot of extensive outreach to try to get people, and I wish people would have participated more in our community than those that did, but we did a lot of outreach to try to get people involved in that process. And I think it would be wise to reach out to the half dozen affected property owners here too. Commissioner Keen? Commissioner Keen, you're on mute.
Yes. Donovan, is there someone interested in that property right now? Is that what this is about? Is there a company or someone that's interested in going in there?
I don't know if anyone, I don't think so. We did receive basically a light manufacturing request for information that we had to send back, with the message that we'll know that the zoning doesn't work for there. That was just kind of almost a random thing, but no, there's no active conversation currently.
Well, I myself, I think it might be a little too early to make take a vote on this without, input from the property owners and maybe some updated figures and stuff to give to us for maybe at the next meeting. That's just my opinion at this time.
Okay.
Commissioner Batty?
I'm just wondering if this isn't the kind of item that would lend itself to a combined work, a discussion at a combined workshop. I guess I'd be interested in knowing a little bit. I mean, I attended some of the comp plan meetings. I didn't attend every single one of them, but I attended enough to, at least get an idea of what was going on. But I'm kind of interested in. I mean, if you're going to do this much to this many pieces of property, obviously, we're headed somewhere with this. And I guess I'd be interested in hearing, or participating in a robust discussion, of where this is actually headed. I understand Commissioner Young's concern about housing, but I'm looking at this, and other than this parcel number 4, I don't know that, that I don't see this as single family dwelling type zoning, maybe high density, but I'm just kind of curious what the overall plan is here, if there is one. Are we trying to leave an impression? Are we trying to create a atmosphere? Is that kind of what this is the beginnings of, or
Well, no, there's, there's been there's been many discussions at the EDA regarding Headwaters 123 and preparing that for the tech corridor property. The other piece is that I didn't want to handicap, all those Highway 61 corridor properties with this potentially 50% residential, where those properties, besides the one that's, just a little bit north of 190th Street, they don't seem that conducive to residential. So that was my push there. Underlying all this simply also is the need for any comp plan amendment to keep those top line numbers for a 3.0 minimum dwelling unit per acre density for sewered areas, in the future, and then also accommodate the regional share of housing and jobs as well. And that's why it looks like something like a patchwork with that, but that is the underlying, underlying premise with this.
Donovan, did you want to keep going on with your presentation?
Yeah, well, I wanted to explain a couple more things, I guess, involving the process, that this is one step, and also note that we did receive that one letter from Mr. Jamie Jensen regarding comments on this, where he believes that in his letter, he stated that the 15 acres he'd like to purchase from the city on the north side of Tanner's Brook is, which is part of Headwaters 123, would be better suited to residential. And he believes, that the city and he can also achieve both their goals with the tech center to the north, as well as that low density, medium density residential there, and leave that some section of that as it is currently in the future land use plan. And then also there's a big table that I think goes into just what I summarized as far as juggling those numbers. I'm not going to go into that, but I want to note that was a big piece of this. And I guess what's easier to look at is that map. That's why I focus on that. But I think I do have, I do hear what the planning commissioners are saying with this, the reluctance to move forward in this form. I'd like to go back and work with Jane Concierge, who assisted with this, in order to bring forth something, and as well as do the outreach you've noted, so that I think property owners can understand what the changes are, and I think outline it a little bit better, with the actual, with what what the future land use, more of a picture of what we're looking to do. The thing that I'm not sure I can address is Commissioner Miller's comment around the kind of the more dedicated use of this to the business park, more of this economic development piece. That's because that is something that's a direction that council has given and invested a bit of money into a wetland delineation and a phase 1 environmental study for that. But that's, but as far as the zoning goes, I think there's a lot we can do to improve a comp plan amendment and provide something that you can recommend to council.
Commissioner Young?
Donovan, if you come back to us, what would be very, very helpful to me is to understand, for instance, on parcel number 8, on section number 8, the number of dwellings you had anticipated as part of the mixed use versus dwellings in general business, which I assume would be 0. Because I do know that revised table 2.17, there was blood, sweat, and tears that went into that. And to me, it would appear that there would be some significant changes going from the number of dwelling units in a mixed use land use to 0 in a general business. So I would like to know that. The second thing is, Donovan, some of us that worked hard on the comp plan were very frustrated that at the 11th hour, a very significant change was made on the southeastern portion of the city without consulting either the folks who had worked hard on the comp plan or the public. And I would really not want to make that same mistake again with an area that is very, very visible in our city, has the potential to be significant growth and significant residential and business development. But I would like to make sure that this is done very much in the light of day.
Commissioner Young, could I ask you a question?
Certainly.
You said the southeast corner of the city. Did you mean the southwest corner, the portion that was modified to commercial?
Chair Langus, yes, I did. I apologize.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I understood. I was like, what happened on the southeast side? So, thank you.
No,
Commissioner Miller, you'll need to unmute.
And just another comment, I think as I look at the Tanner Brook Golf Course, I think keeping an option open there for some mixed use or medium density housing might be a better option for around the golf course on that north side, but instead of just business park all the way up to it. So if you could take that into consideration, that'd be my comment.
Okay.
I'll comment too. So one of the I think key points that and you listed a lot of the really good points on why that property, our climate, things like that are so amicable to a data center. But 2 really important things that kind of happened in Forest Lake is we have Connexus and Excel in relative proximity to that, which makes having dual sets of power coming in extremely helpful. And there's, as I understand it, extremely high-speed internet lines running through that region of the city. So it's if we don't do a tech center, one of our neighbors will, and they, I think, will fare well with that in the long term. The city did also, the city council did also look at the plan for housing on the north side of the golf course. And while I'm okay with that, I think that the city council has decided, and I'm okay with their decision as well, but they decided to not move forward with selling that portion of the property, believing that the entire 123 is more saleable for a large scale project in that region. And they have invested quite a bit of time and money and resources in building partnerships with the county. And it's a common topic at council, EDA, both in our city and some of our neighbors or our other local governments. So I'm very okay with changing zoning for our city-owned property. And to me, that's not a problem. And even expediting that, especially knowing that the council has had extensive discussion on this and already presented us with it. I think, and I didn't actually have this in my thoughts before the meeting tonight, but Susan makes some really good points with those other parcels, and noticing those neighbors, and whether that's a neighborhood meeting with them, a workshop, requesting feedback or something. I think it's a different story when we're changing other people's properties versus that of our own. Are there other comments? Did you have anything else to present on this, Donovan, or did you want me to see if there's a motion, or do you want a motion either way?
No, I don't think it's worthwhile to make a motion now. I'd rather bring forth something that it would that I think that the planning commission is comfortable with. And I don't have anything else to present.
Commissioner Miller?
Again, I'm with you, Commissioner Legness. I think, some sort of a tech center in that area would be wonderful. I think would bring some well-needed jobs to our community and spur more growth in terms of restaurants and housing, things like that. I just was concerned if we lock it up as a business park, that's our only option then for now until whenever. And I just don't know what the process is to change it if it doesn't go the way we want it to go. That was my only concern.
Yeah, and I Commissioner Miller, I understand that too, and I see it both ways on this one. If we change it to something on our own property there, we may be able to advance that process for a developer coming in or a data center coming in or a tech hub or whatever that future piece is that's sitting out there. And it's either gonna be we do all this process up front and stalemate that, or we've changed it now in preparation for it and say, we're ready, here's what we've done, and we're adding one more check to the checklist. And if it doesn't work out, then we have to reverse it. But I guess either way, there isn't a perfect answer on that one, is there? Commissioner Keen?
Well, I agree with that. I think we just need a little more discussion on it. Come back with some new numbers, because this all just hit us tonight, and I just think it needs a little more time. But I see both sides of it. I see the pros and the cons, but I just don't think it's ready for a vote. Like Donovan said, he doesn't feel comfortable giving it up for a vote right now, and I just think it needs a little more discussion.
Commissioner Batty?
Well, I'm interested in the city doing what they can to make this property saleable. I think it's an opportunity that's worth going after. I'm wondering if there's not two issues, kind of two separate things here, and we've tried to combine them into a single thing. I think I understand why Donovan did what he did, but I want to, at least off the record, voice support for the city council in investing in this piece of property and making it as saleable as it can be. If it's our property, to me, it's no big deal if the climate change, if the climate changes, if somebody comes along that, wants to another use, I don't, to me, there's no reputation or lost, or there's no honor lost in changing it back or changing it to something different if a different opportunity presents itself. I just know that there are plenty of options out there for companies that are looking for this size of piece of property, and if we don't make it saleable here, they'll definitely find someplace else to do it. So I'm in favor of But I agree with the comments that I do believe that this needs to be crafted a little bit differently so that it, I mean, I think one of the, in addition to the things that have been mentioned, one of the things that is missing is how the pieces in red, I'm still looking at that page that has the 8 parcels identified on it. You know, what's happening, you know, what are the in-between spots? You know, what is the problem? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and look at the comp plan and the zoning plan and see what that surrounding property is. And because I think that's something that needs to be taken as part of the decision to make these kind of changes, if that is indeed in our best interest to do it.
Other comments? Donovan, do you have everything you're looking for here from us?
I do. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to, I'm not seeing any hands raised. We'll move on to item number 9, comprehensive rezoning components discussion item.
And I'd like to basically, this is more of a discussion item. Not a lot of not a lot of sorry. Not a lot of it's, I mean, it's not, definitely not, it's more of a not a decision item, but I want to get it before the planning commission members. Basically some of the kind of the outline for the comprehensive rezoning. And this is, you know, what we've kind of been leading toward for a long time with getting the comp plan adopted. Then obviously there needs to be consistency between the zoning code and the comp plan. And so I've outlined, you know, in 3 different categories: general consistency of the 2040 plan and the zoning code, implementations of policies outlined in the 2040 plan, and finally, some correction and clarifications of existing zoning codes provisions. Some of these are some of the housekeeping items that, you know, I'm aware of, and it's more of just some of the pieces that are involving administering the code day to day. I see some definitions that could be added, and some of those pieces that you know, also just clarify things, you know, work with, you know, from discussions with residents, plan commission, developers, staff, on how to make things work better. And so I want to just present this to commissioners and see if you had any strong opinions on priorities, or, you know, some elements you'd like to see first, because this is going to be a multi-month process. And basically, you know, zoning, you know, in the form of zoning text amendments. And some of that, you know, really kind of culminating in a zoning, you know, zoning map amendment for specific pieces as well. But starting small and taking a little bit of an incremental approach, I'd like to begin with some of these textual elements. So just if, I know you may not have had much chance to look over this or even much sense of what you've seen. I mean, we've talked about the PUD criteria as something that we'd like to do, and I have that, you know, as the top of the list. I think, you know, what I've listed here in as in the implementation of policies outlined in the plan, the you know, exploring, you know, allowing or exploring how accessory dwelling units can be enlarged, can be accommodating for current ways that people are using property. And I get calls 2 or 3 a month, or even this week, there's a building permit review where someone wanted to, you know, basically retrofit their basement to allow mom to move in. And our current rules don't allow that beyond a 600 square foot dwelling. And they don't even contemplate having, you know, a separate dwelling unit on a single lot. And so that would be a priority I would see moving forward. But I'm interested in with Plan Commission members. I mean, what do you see as potential for, you know, to focus on and to add to the list or prioritize the list?
Commissioners? Commissioner Batty?
I know you have to start somewhere. And I know there's a lot of things that we have to cover, but I'm one of the things that I want to make sure is early on in the process here, this whole issue of lot density and unit density on multi in developments, and also in apartment buildings and that sort of thing. And I just, if we're gonna stay in the game here as far as being competitive with other communities around us in attracting development, that's one of the things that I think has to be very near the top of our list of priorities. Making sure that our zoning ordinances in that arena that affect that arena line up with the comp plan.
You certainly development, Commissioner Batty, on the second one of the general consistency, I thought about you when I wrote the increased development intensities and residential densities. So
Thank
you're
you.
in there.
Thank you.
Commissioner Young?
And Donovan, you know that you were just raising that red flag in front of me when you put increased on there, didn't you? I think I think that appropriate development intensities is something that I really do want to consider. I don't think that across the board, in an exurb like we are, all increases is actually what we're after. I think that as we look at some of the policies, things like scenic view protection, airspace protection, and delineation of airspaces, solar gain protection and opportunities are going to be things we're going to want to look at.
I'm sorry, what was that? You said what sort of protection?
Scenic areas, airspace, and solar gain.
Okay.
The ability to use solar and not have it blocked by off of your single family dwelling by the 53 unit building next door. On the correction and clarification, you've got introduction of public and institutional zoning districts. If we have a zoning district like that, don't we need to have some land that we would be delineating as part of our previous agenda item as institutional? I mean, or is this just you want to have the district and not have any land currently or potentially slated for that? That one just sort of caught my eye.
Yeah.
And I think that we could all put together a lot of minor corrections and insertions. I've got a few more that I've thought of too.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that in the future land use plan, there is public institutional future land use category. And this, in the current zoning, that's zoning map, there is not that zoning district. So we have these areas that are blue, kind of a powder blue in the future land use plan. They never, in the 2030 plan, they never translated to a zoning district. So I want to correct that. Is one thing. Yeah.
And Donovan, I want to thank you for this because you know that this is something that I know is going to take us a great deal of time, and I really do want to get this started before we need to start applying our new comp plan.
Certainly. The Met Council stated rule is that we have 9 months to do it. So we better start running.
Other commissioners? I can jump in and give you my opinion too. The one thing that I would probably prioritize, Donovan, and for the most part, I don't really care how this list happens, just that we get it done in before that 9 months, so we're not preventing anyone from future projects or whatever they might want to use their property for. But the one thing I would really prioritize is the permitted use section that would very specifically go over and allow mental health centers in residential properties. And just get that out of the way because the community has clearly begged for that for quite a while. And I would just rather have it not be a distraction to the rest of the business.
Certainly. Yeah. Resolve residential care facility zoning inconsistency. So, yeah.
Other
And that would be
commissioners?
both mental and physical.
I think that's a great part of the discussion, Susan.
Yep.
Other comments? Are you looking for any other feedback, Donovan?
I'm looking for whatever you know, things you see. And obviously, as far as the corrections go, you know, if you want to shoot me, you know, emails individually, I welcome that. Things you've seen, you know, if you, as you, I'm sure have poured over the zoning code and, you know, used it extensively. And that's partly tongue in cheek, partly serious, but now you know, I would welcome that assistance. Mostly I just want to kind of get this out there so we, you know, it's in front of you, it's also in front of me. And so I'll start producing the draft texts so that we can initiate discussion.
Commissioner Brink?
Let's see, under number 0.7 implementation, just a clarification or maybe elaborating on the aesthetic improvement of lighting properties. Maybe a little bit more of what that would entail.
That is, for one thing, that's a design thing. Right now, I mean, it's been halted due to COVID-19 restrictions, but the EDA is beginning a process to do a downtown design committee and to explore standards of design, and that's, you know, that's kind of on the redevelopment side of that. Partly, I believe is just simply enforcement, work on enforcement mechanisms. That's something that we've, you know, it's been subject of council discussions as well, with some people being frustrated at, you know, the state of some properties in the downtown area, as well as, of course, in residential properties. I mean, these are some of the complaints that I hear as a staff member. But like to look at what are some ways we can, you know, improve that. And, you know, there's some code pieces. I think there's policy. I don't know. I haven't really approached council as far as, you know, is there money for, you know, rehab for residential properties, you know, with commercial properties, and that'd be something of EDA conversation as well. But it's something that's in the comp plan, and I think it's, you know, as the city evolves, it's something we need to continue to really work toward addressing some of these properties that really, you know, are people call blighted or the eyesores, but they really don't present that, you know, positive, you know, image of the community.
Mm-hmm. And just along the same lines aesthetically, the beautification of the public sphere. I know that Forest Lake does have a beautification group or club, and actually has for probably almost 100 years. It would be nice to see the city work with that group too, because I know they would like to be really involved in improving the overall aesthetic of the city.
Okay, can you send me a contact,
Yeah, absolutely.
please?
Commissioner Young.
Actually, you've got 2 garden clubs in Forest Lake. There are 2 Forest Lake garden clubs, and then you have the downtown beautification group that was responsible for the seasonal work on the planters and putting the ornaments on the city's Christmas tree this year.
I wasn't aware there were 2. When did the second one pop up?
About 3 years ago.
Okay. That's
And
good.
that doesn't count the master gardeners that are up here too, that have a couple of different demonstration gardens.
Donovan, I know you like history. I'll send you some historical stuff on the garden club. It goes way back in our town, and it's really interesting what the citizens can do when they come together. And
Uh-huh. That's super.
Additional comments? Not seeing any, Donovan. Do you want anything else from us?
No, that is it for me as far as this agenda item.
All
Thank
right,
you.
well, we'll move on to item number 10 on the agenda, other business. I normally reach out to Councilmember Gerard. Did we by chance forget to give him this, or is he just not in today?
I don't know if, I don't think no, I'm sorry. I don't think he got invited. Or
And
Karen,
I
can you tell me, is he on the Plan Commission?
I confess it's
group
probably
mailing?
my fault.
and that's fine. I don't mean to call you out on it
Nope.
live, but at the same time, I don't want it
totally
to.
forgot about Paul. Paul, I'm so sorry.
We'll bring him on. We'll bring him on the next time if you could, please.
Yeah.
So we'll go around the table. Donovan, do you have updates?
Well, I guess I've kind of, implied it, but I do want to say that at their March 25th meeting, the Metropolitan Council did approve the 2040 comprehensive plan for Forest Lake. And so that can go back to our city council for formal adoption. That's planned to take as a consent agenda item this Monday. So that piece, which is something over a 3-year process, that piece will be done. And also I want to add that in talking to Met Council staff about our comprehensive plan amendment, they said there's no shame in amending it, even though it's like all new and everything. And you kind of, you buy a new car, you don't want to paint a new color once you buy it. Well, there's, many other communities are also amending their plans, even after due to changes, due to, changing, economics or just city priorities. But so I think that's a big step for the city. And we will not have a second April meeting, but we will have a May 13th Plan Commission meeting. And I think we're going to work it. We'll be able to have a public hearing. More details on that later. So we can look forward to that. That's really it for me. And I really appreciate you taking these steps to participate in this Zoom meeting. And I hope it was fairly comfortable for everyone and people had their ability to, speak what they need to say. And, we could, also look at things. And if you have any other feedback on that, feel free to, share it with myself or Karen so we can improve on it. But I think we'll at least with the next meeting, we'll have at least that May 13th meeting, we will have the Zoom format again. And we'll see as things go forward, how this progresses. That's it for me.
And likewise, if there's feedback that I could do better chairing the meeting, please let me know that as well. Donovan, they really should pull that off the consent agenda on Monday, though. It seems like that's a bigger item than something that should just get passed over in the blanket of things. So
Yeah.
hopefully somebody pulls it and gives accolades to the staff at City Hall for most of the work behind that. Certainly there's some of us that participated on it, but you guys did the most. Karen, did you have any updates for us?
I don't have any updates, but I did want to say thanks for everybody's patience on this meeting. There was a lot of emails that went out, and it was a lot of coordination to get everybody all on the same page, and everybody got here. Dan put tons of effort, Dan Undum put tons of effort into coordinating all of this and making sure everybody had access and was able to figure everything out together. And so I just want to say thanks. From my perspective on my end and handling all the minutes and doing everything, this went great. And it was nice. Everybody, followed protocol. It was perfect from my perspective. So, and again, sorry, Paul. That was it.
The only update I know that the city council might tell us is that we still have a vacancy on the planning commission.
Right.
To my knowledge, they have not filled that role. Other than that, I don't know what Paul would have brought forward to us. Commissioner, we'll go just around
I
this.
usually get applications. Those applications come through when somebody applies. I haven't received any, and those usually get forwarded tomorrow right away. So I haven't received any applications online from anyone for the planning commission. So I suppose if anybody has recommendations, let's send them my way.
We'll just go around. Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
did you have any updates?
Oh, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Keen?
Well, I just want to say, I thought it went very, very well. Everybody kind of followed the protocol, raised their hands. Everybody can see what's going on, so nobody's jumping over anyone else. I thought it went very, very well. Thank you, Donovan, Karen, and whoever else put this together. I think it went very smooth.
Commissioner Brink?
I concur. Yeah, I think it went great.
Commissioner Batty?
I agree. I think it went very well. And I would concur with your comment about the comp plan being on the consent agenda. What an anticlimactic way to send that thing off into the wild blue yonder.
And sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Batty.
No, I just think that there ought to be something, somebody ought to say something nice about it, after all this work.
Commissioner Young?
Move adjournment.
And there's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Who said that they'll second it?
Commissioner Miller.
Commissioner Miller seconded it. It's non-debatable. Is there Karen, I'm sorry. Karen, can you take a roll call on adjournment?
Karen, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Commissioner Young,
Aye.
Commissioner Keen,
Aye.
Commissioner Brink,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Batty,
Aye.
and Chair Langness.
Aye. We're adjourned 8:39.
Hey, Eric,
Hi,
what's
everyone.
with that bizarre background behind you that keeps changing?
That's my office.
Yeah, right.
Donovan,